Welcome to the Books, Beards, Booze podcast, where we talk books, drink booze, and have beards.
All right, here we are. If you've been listening to the bonus episode of the podcast, you'll know that last week we released an episode entitled... no, give me that.
It's gone off the rails already.
God.
You don't get to have notes.
This is background information. Entitled, I think it was Superfan Tonya is wrong about Dune. And guess what?
Spoiler alert, I'm not.
She still is.
No.
So, basically, Derek just finished Dune. Superfan Tonya finished Dune literally like 10 minutes ago. And I've read Dune like 5 times because it's fucking amazing. And so we're going to talk about it.
I don't think that word means what you think it means.
Oh my fucking God. So let's get some background info.
I don't understand how someone would read this more than once.
All right, so we're going to give some background info first. All right, so Dune is written by Frank Herbert. It was tied with Roger Zelazny's This Immortal for the Hugo Award in 1966. And it won the very first Nebula Award for Best Novel. Reviews of this novel have been largely positive, and Dune is considered by some critics to be the best science fiction book ever written, Bob being one. As of 2000, it had sold over 12 million copies worldwide and has been regularly cited as one of the world's best-selling science fiction novels. And in 2003 was actually awarded the best-selling science fiction novel. To give a little background on how he came to write this, and this is... I thought this is really cool. All right, so he wrote The Dragon in the Sea, and that was published in 1957. And he went to Florence, Oregon, which is apparently the north end of the Oregon Dunes, which I'd never heard of.
I didn't even know there were dunes.
Yeah.
Well,
but
that makes this a lot less exciting, because I thought this was like real dunes, but he's talking about just Oregon. God.
If y'all could see the look on Bob's face.
I'm going to hit everyone here. Well, so what was going on here was the USDA was attempting to use grasses to stabilize the sand dunes. And so Herbert was writing a letter to his lit agent, a guy named Lerton Basingame, and talking about the dunes, saying that they could swallow whole cities, lakes, rivers, highways, etc. So he spent the next 5 years researching, writing, and revising this book. It got published. Part of it got published as a 3-part serial in Analog from December to February of 63 to 64. And then...
Was it the whole thing
in
3 parts?
No, it was part of it in 3 parts.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then another part of it got published as like another part series. But anyway, it was expanded, reworked, and eventually submitted to over 20 publishers, all of whom rejected it.
As they should have.
It was finally accepted and published, and this is what I thought was really interesting, by Chilton Books. Ever heard of Chilton Books?
Sounds familiar.
I had never heard of them.
I know why it sounds familiar to me.
It's a printing house better known for publishing auto repair manuals. That's what they did. This was the first book that they ever published that wasn't an auto repair manual.
Well, that just says a lot about their literary
knowledge. The first edition of Dune is one of the most valuable out there. Copies have gone for more than $10,000 at auction because it's 9.25 inches tall with different size, because it was basically Chilton had only ever published repair manuals, so it looks a little weird. 4 quick little facts of note.
Hold on real quick. You know why it's important that Chilton did that?
Why?
I'm going to out myself as a ridiculous human being.
Yes.
Chilton was the school that Lorelai sent Rory Gilmore and Gilmore Girls.
Fucking nerd.
100%. Yeah.
Wow.
On a nerd podcast,
Wow.
you just out-nerded yourself.
Okay.
That's
Are you talking Gilmore Girls? Gilmore Girls is not nerd culture.
No, that's super.
I'm out.
Yeah, I'm
out.
I'm out.
No, yeah.
We're done here.
No, yeah.
I'm out.
All right. I'm not sure.
We're not friends anymore.
Yeah.
I quit.
All right.
Okay,
so,
well, when I agree with everything you say,
Okay.
remember that.
All right.
All right.
So, science fiction author Arthur C. Clarke has described it as unique and claimed, "I know nothing comparable to it except Lord of the Rings." Robert Heinlein described Dune as powerful, convincing, and almost ingenious. 3 quick facts. 1, do you know the debut? Do you know Grimes, the musician Grimes?
Yes.
I thought you knew
I don't
Grimes.
know.
All right. Well, Grimes, her debut album is called Giddy Primes, and it's a concept album based on Dune. All right. 30 Seconds to Mars, their self-titled debut album, is strongly influenced by Dune.
Great.
And the names of planets from the Dune novels are what they're using to name the planes and other features of Saturn's moon Titan.
Cool.
So that's my background information
All right.
on kind of how Dune came to be and whatnot.
Cool.
And-
So this being a kudzu fanfic, because so they have a dune problem and they're just gonna grow some grass to help the dunes. Bitch, that's what they did with kudzu down here. That shit don't fucking work.
That's definitely not what they're doing. Definitely not what they're doing.
This whole thing's trash.
Okay. Okay.
So, just to let everyone know, Tonya has been savaging this the past few days on Facebook, and it has literally been my favorite thing in the past week.
I will say
I took screenshots and sent them to my friends.
Yeah.
You should have been screenshotting what I've been sending you on Snapchat.
Oh, you only
Like,
sent me the one.
the one thing that I saw that you said that was actually
Okay.
that was fucking hilarious. What were you saying? It was like
It's the LSD.
Old
Yes.
dude named himself and then just had like LSD juice.
yeah, you said like this whiny emo kid who
Yes.
named himself after a mouse
Yes.
is tripping on acid.
Yeah, he's drinking LSD juice and
Yeah.
he named himself.
She
after
did
a
not say
mouse.
whiny because there is no emotion in any character in this book.
All right, so
But
all right, so
that was-
all right,
He's-
we're
he comes off as
gonna
whiny.
structure this a little
Okay.
bit. So me and Derek have decided, like when we're talking about books, we're gonna focus on the what we're calling the 4 pillars. Someone's probably named it something much better, but the 4 pillars of fiction, which are plot, characters, prose, and world building.
Your 5th element is, do I fucking like it? No.
Well, the idea being that you rate each on a scale from 1 to 5.
So that people
and you come up-
understand.
you understand why. Like, it's not enough to say, like, I didn't like this book. Well, why didn't you like this book? Because if
Okay.
you don't like the book because of the plot,
Yes.
and
Some people don't care as much
someone
about
don't care about
plot,
plots,
then they
then
might-
it doesn't hold as much. So
Okay.
first off, let's talk about the plot. That's my favorite part of every book.
Okay.
I personally love the plot. To me, I think the 2 strengths of this are plot and world building. Those are the strengths of this book, and those are my 2 favorite things in and that's
fiction,
why I
right.
like this
Makes perfect
so
sense
much.
to me.
So let's talk about the plot. I greatly enjoyed the plot. There's a lot of political intrigue, which I liked. There is a lot of esprit de corps, which you get with like Gurney Halleck and Duncan Idaho, which I love. You get
What's that mean?
esprit de corps, like Brotherhood at Arms.
Got it.
And then like I love like elite badassery, which you get in spades with the fucking Fremen, and like all that kind of comes together, and I love that. And I really do think it's a book that I know you're never going to reread it.
Never. I don't reread books. I sure the fuck
but
am
it
not
is definitely a
rereading
book
this.
that I feel like you definitely benefit from rereading. Like there's a lot of depth to this book. Like for example, like the whole scene with Fenrir and Margot. What I forget. Fenrir and Margot. I forget their last name.
No, his last name is Fenrig.
Fenrig.
Yeah.
What's his first name?
Just say Count. Just say
Count Fenrig and his wife Margot. They go to watch Feyd-Rautha fight the Atreides, and I love that scene. But there's so much more going on in that scene than just what you see at the face of it, kind of deal. And I didn't pick up on all the nuances because I read it for the first time when I was like, I don't know, I'm going to say I was like 10, 11, 12, something like that. And so like when I read it when I was older, I picked up on more of it, and I got a new appreciation for it, kind of deal. So like I can recognize like characterization, not a strong suit of this. And
We'll talk about that in a minute.
Yeah. But plot-wise, I think the plot was very solid. It had a lot of intricacies to it, and I genuinely enjoyed the plot.
So do you want to go next, or do you want me to go
Okay,
next?
Yeah.
so I enjoy the world building.
Yeah.
I am
No,
intrigued.
we're talking about the plot.
I'm intrigued. Oh, fuck. I gotta talk about the plot?
Please
Yeah, we're
do,
talking
because
about,
we'll talk about
we'll
world
talk,
building.
we'll talk about world building in a second.
I was trying to get to the one part that I liked.
Well, then...
Okay, so
We're going to do characterization next.
plot-wise, this just felt like... Oh, I'll stop tapping the table with my angry
Lady
hands.
fingers.
Lady fingers are delicious.
Never had one.
They're like cookies.
Oh, no, I have, yeah.
Yeah, they're real good. Anyway.
Talking to the mic.
So, the plot was a stretch. Okay, I don't give any fucks about political intrigue.
Okay.
I'm not saying I
Well, you're
like
wrong.
fluffy books,
Yeah.
but I don't want to have to reread things 3 times to get what the fuck I'm saying. I should not have...
Yeah.
I shouldn't have to go to the Wikipedia to go, the fuck is going on? I should not have to send you snaps at 11 o'clock at night going, I don't know. There's some people in a building. The fuck even is this? I shouldn't have to do that. It should be at least clear enough. I don't know.
I get what you're saying, but here's the thing. You snapped me and did not even understand that there were 2 houses that didn't like each other.
I did. I get that.
Why?
But I don't understand why. I still don't understand why the fuck they were fighting. Like, what's the point?
Tonya, it literally, like, this is not like subtle nuance.
Okay.
You have to piece it together.
Okay.
It literally, word for word,
Uh-huh.
tells you exactly why these 2 houses hate each other. Like, it's not like subtle, like, oh, you gotta read between the lines. It literally spells it out.
It was just so boring. I didn't
like,
read that
word
part.
for word, it tells you, like, this house and this house used to be close, and they're not anymore because the grandfathers, one embarrassed the other real bad, and they have sworn a blood oath against each other ever since. Like, so, like, you said repeatedly how you kept picking it up and putting it down and picking it up and putting it down. I really and truly think because you kept doing that, you forgot too much stuff every time you did that.
It's a forgettable book.
But here's my problem though with that is you're shitting on the book, but you like here's what
I didn't give it the chance it deserves.
No, here's what befuddles me. You are possibly you're in the top 10 smartest people I've ever talked to. Okay? All right. You are quite clearly smart enough to grasp the fact that these 2 houses don't like each other.
I mean, I get that.
But you didn't. And
So
it's
something's wrong.
So something's wrong. But it's not, look, it's not because of the writing of the book. No, it's not like, no, like literally, like you were smart, Tonya, if I tell you, because you were like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
But everything I told you wasn't between the lines. It was, hey, no, these 2 houses don't like each other, and it tells you in the book that, Vladimir Harkonnen's grandfather and Leto's grandfather, they were at this battle, and Vladimir's grandfather started to run away or something, and it's been a long time since I read it, but it's because of this battle. Like, it clearly spells it out for you that this is why they don't like each other. You are smart enough to get that. You just took too much time in between readings and forgot information, and you're now judging it because well, shit, I don't know why these 2 houses don't like each other. Well, no, you knew it, but you took too much time in between reading it.
So, I should be sitting here because I'm going to be the halfway point between the both of you.
Too late.
Because you're both right and wrong on this one. Here's why. First of all, we're going to talk about the plot because that's what we're talking about.
We're talking about plot.
The plot, I thought, was incredibly straightforward, which isn't a bad thing.
No.
But I also don't think it was particularly innovative. I don't think it was particularly, it was a very straightforward plot. Like, they were betrayed. He's trying to, he's here. Everybody, Chris, good old...
I just had a heart attack because fucking...
I saw him earlier while we were talking and I didn't want to freak you out, but...
That's your name, Creeper Chris. You
Fair
finally
enough.
get a nickname.
We'll be doing our Scotch review
Yeah.
episode with him
God.
at a later
I just
date.
had a heart attack. Anyway,
But anyways, the point is, we were. I completely forgot what we were talking about.
The plot.
the
Oh,
plot.
the plot. I think it's not even too straightforward. I
Well,
don't want to denigrate it.
But
in that
also,
way.
keep.
The date it was written.
Yeah, this
I
is
understand.
written 60 years
I
ago.
understand.
So it
Yeah.
was.
But-
I think it was a lot more innovative for its time than
Okay.
it necessarily seems now.
Okay, well,
I'll give it
innovative
that.
wasn't
I'll give it
wasn't
that.
the word I was looking for. Intricate is the word I was
Yeah.
looking for. It's a
It
fairly
is not. It
straightforward.
is not very intricate.
That's all I was saying.
Yeah.
It's not like I don't enjoy the story that it told,
Yeah.
but it was very, very
That-
straightforward.
I think that's something here also. Something that you said earlier made me think about this. Is like when I say political intrigue doesn't mean that you have to read a thing 3 times to get it. Political intrigue can be very straightforward. Just political intrigue is just these two people are politicking against each other. It
Yeah.
doesn't mean that it's
So,
obtuse.
which-
it can be very straightforward. It's straightforward to you, the reader, typically, not to them. Because if it was straightforward to them, the politicking probably wouldn't work.
I will concede that perhaps I should not have started. In my defense, had this book been written better and been more entertaining
Where-
and more gripping
no,
in the
hold-
beginning,
okay,
I would not have sat it down.
right here,
that's fair.
because that's moving on to the next part where
Okay.
that was the part that you were right about. This is the part that she was right about.
Well, what are we talking about now? Characterization?
No, from plot.
Oh, okay,
We
plot.
were talking about plot.
About
Now
how you're
we're-
right on plot and how I'm also right on plot.
No, you're not right on plot. You're wrong on plot. However, when we cross
The
over,
story's okay.
we're moving on to prose now.
Okay, pros.
Because of the way this book was written,
Fuck.
look, you know how much I love my prose. This is
Yeah.
the thing that I focus on probably more than anything else. And at points, I really appreciated the way this was written, and at other points, I legitimately
It's
even
dense.
it's not even that.
It's
I found myself reading it and going,
I say dense in that it's not an easy read. Like, not that it's necessarily like dense and then like super complicated, but it's not. I'll admit it's not the easiest read. Because that's something that like Tonya said, but she's not the only person I've ever heard say that. Like,
but here's
it's
the
not.
thing.
It's not a super easy
Here's
read.
why she was right about what she was saying. When you're reading a story and you're having trouble following anything, you start just fading and
Yeah.
you can't stay focused. So even if they straight up said, here's why these two people aren't working together well, or why these two houses hate each other, you're so weighed down with everything else you were trying to focus on, you've worn out your focus and it just slips by you. And it's
there
only
was a
slightly-
lot of that for me because I'm like for the first
This is what-
third of this book, I kind of felt like my eyes were just
here-
crossing words.
Here's my thing.
I
But that's the thing. If you get to that point, you just need to not stop reading the book.
I stopped and started back, and then I got
that's
trouble
my
for
thing.
starting
No. I'm not saying
Put it down for a
stop.
minute.
Like,
Or-
set it down for the night. I'm not saying
Yeah,
set it down
yeah.
for 2 weeks. I'm saying set it down for the night. Because like, I get like that. Like, there'll
Yeah.
be times when, like, I'm reading at night
just
and I
not
get to a point and I
comprehending.
realize
No idea what
I just
read.
read 2 pages and I don't remember any of it. And so then I just put the book down, and then the next day I'll go back a couple pages and start back. Like, if you get to the point where it's not I think you just kept trying to push through,
Yes.
and you kept making it worse.
Yes.
Like,
Yes,
I think the
probably.
reason you hate this book is because you forced yourself through the point to where you missed such a huge initial amount of stuff that because I remember when you sent me that snap,
Yeah.
I literally do not know anything that's going on. And I basically, all I did was just give you a summary of the first part of the book. Like, oh, that all makes sense. But literally, you are far and away smart enough that every bit of what I told you, you should have picked up on. The reason you didn't is I think because you kept starting and stopping or forcing yourself oh God, I'm reading this, it's not making any sense. Throw the book away for 2 weeks. If you had the moment that you got to where you were just like, this, I don't
Okay,
get what I'm
here's-
reading. Just set it down
Here's the thing,
and come
though.
back.
Again, this is kind of my thing.
Mhm.
I found myself doing that very regularly. And if I just stopped every time where I was just like, okay, this is a bit much. The way I look at it, it's not even dense. Dense isn't the word. Because dense is where it's super, long. There's a lot of words to say a lot of things. This is not dense. This is
poorly written.
That's
it's
not
poorly
That's
written.
not what I'm looking for.
Like, no. You don't like it. Okay? You don't like it. That doesn't mean it's poorly written. Like, I don't like Wheel of Time.
But it's
I
not
can
poorly
readily
written.
acknowledge that it's written quite well, and he does some amazing things with the writing. I just don't like it. Now, if...
There are merits to this book. I'm not going to shit on it entirely. There are things about this that are cool.
It's
but
not poorly written.
It's not also. It's also not this fucking amazing book that everybody makes it out to be. It's okay.
To you. Like...
Okay, when you read this when you were 10, did you read it when, like, tiny version, or did you read, like, the giant fucking...
I read the version you're holding in your hand. That's not the exact copy.
But it might as well be.
Because the copy I had, I gave to Bane, and Bane left it in his car. And it got, like, rained on or something like that.
Shout out to Bane.
That's irony.
I
Dune
didn't
book.
read an abridged version of the book. Like... But no, look, I think part of your problem was you don't read sci-fi. You've never read sci-fi.
Okay.
And what fantasy you have read has been modern fantasy.
Are you going to try to beat me into liking this
No,
book the way
no,
I tried
no,
to beat myself
no.
to finish this book?
No.
Okay.
But
I really need to separate.
You can not like this book. I don't have a problem with you not liking this book.
It kind of feels like you do, though.
No, like, I love this book.
He's going to strangle you.
No, my point is, I think you're shitting on this book for the wrong reasons. Like, you're shitting on this book. You can not like a book. Mm-hmm. That's fine. Mm-hmm. If you don't like a book, that's okay. Mm-hmm. I don't like Wheel of Time. Mm-hmm. All right, I have some very
but at
real.
Least I understand.
I have
why.
some very real problems with it that I can sit down there and back up. That even if Derek doesn't agree with them, he can recognize our valid complaints.
Okay.
It's taste. It's a taste thing. Between me and him, that's a taste thing. I think a lot of the reasons why you're shitting on this book are not fair. You can sit there and tell me it's like the book was too dense. I didn't like the prose. That's fine. I'm okay with that. Like, I don't care about that. But if you're like, well, like it just didn't make any sense. It's like, well, okay. It didn't make any sense, but you were either not reading it closely enough, or because you're starting and stopping, you did not even grasp the basics, and then you're complaining that it didn't make any sense. Like, if you don't understand pre-calculus and you're taking calculus, it's not going to make any sense.
Okay.
So you didn't have a firm grasp of the core premise and then dive into it, and then you're complaining that, well, it doesn't make any sense.
Okay.
Well,
so
that's what I disagree with.
Okay. So I get 100 pages into this 500-page book, and I'm like, Bob, I don't get this.
Yeah.
You give me a breakdown. You fill me in.
Yeah.
I have the foundation that I need. I understand what's happening. Mm-hmm. The other 400 pages are still not that great.
That's fine. Like, if you don't like it, that's okay. But do
I need to go and be like, I don't particularly like the sentence structure? I didn't feel like there was...
That would be more helpful, yes.
Okay.
That's a prose thing. If you don't like the way that it's written, like I said, and that's another thing. Like, you haven't read any sci-fi or fantasy that hasn't been written in the past 10 years. Other than, like, Lord of the Rings. Mm-hmm. Like, there is a difference. I mean, there really is. Like, they really did write things differently. I mean, first off, authors have their own style.
Yeah.
But, like, sci-fi and fantasy from 50 years ago is a very different thing from sci-fi and fantasy today. It just is. Yeah. And so, like, this is your first experience with it. If you don't like the way that they wrote that kind of stuff, that's fine. Like, if you don't like the way that Frank Herbert writes, fine. Maybe check out, if you like the world building, check out the stuff that his son wrote. His son writes the same setting, just in a more modern style.
So, back to prose.
Yeah.
And this is the problem
that's the thing I'm least equipped to talk about, because I haven't read the book in 5 or 6 years.
Again, however, the point is, the problem was not it being dense. It's the opposite of that, and I don't exactly know how to describe it.
Again, when I say dense, I'm not saying that it's many layered. Like, I'm saying that it's not an easy read.
Okay,
that's
fair.
all I'm saying.
Okay.
I've never once said it's an easy read. Like I understand it's not an easy read.
But
for me, I just think that the payoff is worth the difficulty.
I don't even. I'm getting too focused on the word dense. Then that's what it is.
Yeah.
Because the prose, I can't describe it. It's not even. The sentences that are the way they're structured are so abstract at points that it's not even like I'm not dumb. Like I'm.
Like I said, that's a fair critique.
And again, my thing was when I was hyper caffeinated, I loved reading it because then I would sit down and read a thing and be like, I have no idea what that means. Let me sit here and think about it for a long time. And I would think like, whoa, he was kind of saying this, but not really. And it was so up to interpretation where you kind of had to like almost metaphorically or philosophically kind of make connections that may be there, but may not be there.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Which was my point, is that if
nobody
you're...
got time for that.
Well, I mean, there are things that I like about that, but at the same time, it didn't work for me, and I like prose a lot, and it still was a serious issue for me.
I understand it's a desert, but you couldn't give me some flowery wording at some point? Like...
It's not what he does.
I know, maybe that's not his writing style.
And also the time, that's just not what they do. From what little I've read of the time period.
that is a
legitimate
fair critique.
Yeah.
While also not being fair because of the time. Like, you just didn't really get that in this time. Because again, this is written in the early 60s.
Can I complain about the last line of this book?
Yeah.
Is that part of prose?
Yes.
About how we read this whole book and, like...
Read the last line?
I'm going to, because it's ridiculous.
Really did
It's ridiculous. The last line of a book is important. And so we read 500 pages about, this guy in the desert and, like... His mom has been trying to raise him to be a savior, but not for real, but kind of maybe for real. And then because she seems super fucking shocked that, oh my god, maybe he is really the savior. I didn't even know. Heifer, you knew the whole fucking time.
She didn't, though.
But she threw these things out like, my Bene Gesserit training told me to drop these Q words down. Like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing.
Well, no, I mean...
What? Hold on.
No. Here's the thing. All right. So, the Bene Gesserit breeding program...
Yeah.
Paul was supposed to be a girl. They did not think... Like, they were breeding towards a Kwisatz Haderach, but they did not... Like, the plan was that Paul was supposed to be a girl... and marry Fade Raltha.
I would like to point out that was actually not said in that book.
And the offspring, yes, it is. It is.
I'm almost positive.
I do remember something about betrayed because
first off,
daughter.
First off, guys, Bohem you were supposed to have a girl. We told you to have a girl.
Yeah.
And later on, the reason Margot has sex with Fade Raltha is because Fade Raltha.
That's not in that book either.
It is. The scene.
Oh no! They at the very end of that chapter.
Yeah, it is. Margot has sex with Fenrir with Fade Raltha to save the genetic, because.
Yeah, but I understand that, but it doesn't actually say that it's specifically because that he was supposed to be a woman.
It does.
It does.
Derek, I swear to you, it does.
So I do remember the scene where
because Gaius Mohiam says you think that you're trying to breed you think he's going to be a Kwisatz Haderach. He's like, no, it's really just because he wanted a son. She references it's too early kind of deal. So she does not think she kind of wouldn't it be every parent wouldn't it be great if he was president? But no parent really believes their kid's going to be president. But wouldn't it be great if they were? But
no.
I'm just saying.
I see
the analogy. Yeah. But so there was. Paul was not supposed to be the Kwisatz Haderach. Paul was supposed to be a girl, and Paula's son was supposed to be the Kwisatz Haderach. That's what everyone was thinking. That's Paul. So Jessica doesn't think Paul is supposed to be the Quasar Haderach. Jessica is using the fucking built-in missionary protectiva stuff to survive. She's not doing it because she necessarily thinks Paul is the Quasar Haderach, and so
it just happens to help make all that.
Well,
happen.
no, because they specifically it's not about the quiz. Now, hold on.
I think maybe that's probably my biggest problem with all this.
What was what?
What?
It's just fate bullshit.
What do you mean fate bullshit?
Like it just seemed not fake, fate.
That's what I'm saying.
Like,
what fate?
It's just so like from the beginning, it feels all of this
is actually the inverse of that. It's
fated to happen.
No, it's actually the exact opposite of that. If this would have been your stereotypical fantasy novel, then Paul would have been supposed to be the Quasar Haderach. He would have been fated to be the Quasar Haderach. He's actually the exact opposite of that. He's not supposed to be the Quasar Haderach. He's a fuck up. He's supposed to be a girl that's supposed to give birth. She has fucked up 10,000 years of breeding
on
programs.
the whim of wanting to give her.
It's the exact opposite of that. It kind of turns the trope on its head to a degree. Like it's not hammered in there. Like he doesn't make a huge point of this. Like a lot of like fantasy will make them, oh, it's fated. He's so fated to do this. Like because he's not. You don't really. It's not hammered in on you like that. So
well, I guess like anytime. So okay, Jessica and Paul they're fleeing.
Yeah.
They're in the little plane. They go down in the desert.
Ornithopter.
They're in their plane and they go down in the desert.
Yeah.
And so Paul sits up and he's like, well, I guess they're gonna call me Muad'Dib now.
Okay,
and,
no, I see
and
what
she's
you're
like,
saying.
oh no. It's like, and then
I understand what you're saying.
he tries to
It's
do all these things to escape his fate, but he's just following his fate.
But here's the thing: Spice though, Spice gives you prescience. He does not have to be the Quasar Haderach to be able to see into the future. That's just a side effect of Spice. I mean, that's just a thing. Like,
yeah, that's how
guild operators work. That's how space travel in this world works. Is guild navigators take spice. It allows them to see into the future, so they can fold space and wind up in somewhere where they don't just appear in a planet kind of deal. Like, so just because he can kind of see into the future a little bit, that makes sense because he's now exposed to spice. Doesn't make him the Quasar Haderach. What makes him the Quasar Haderach is being able to access the other memory.
However,
and then also be able to really fucking see the future. But
what she's trying to say, I think, is the fact that it takes all the humanity out of him as a character when he can just see that, when he sees the future and knows, okay, this is kind of what I need to do to get to where I want to go. And like he knows this action is not the action. I have to take this action. It takes all of the guesswork, all of the uncertainty out of his takes the humanity out of him as a character.
I mean, yes, and maybe that's not Paul's fault.
It's not,
because he's
which
been
was the point
bred and raised.
For most of the book, like until he takes the water of life, though, like he has some prescience, but it's not. Yeah. It's not to the degree that you're making out to be.
He's still just a dead inside robot.
No, like look, if your problem is characterization, like characterization thing I care the least about out of any of it. Mm-hmm. So that
are we off of prose now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't particularly like the way it's written, and the last line of this book is dumb.
Oh yeah, you read the last line.
Yeah. We got all
okay, but can you read it without a
sneer?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
You couldn't have done it without the laugh, too.
I'm sorry, it's so stupid. Okay, so we get through this whole novel.
Right.
And
it's the last line. We know what
the last line. Jessica's talking to
Chani.
Old girl. She's like, well, we Chani, we who carry the name of concubine, history will call us wives.
Yeah.
And that's how it ends. Like, their conversation is ridiculous for one. And like I understand why the conversation's happening. I understand why
there is.
Can you let me have a thought?
Yes.
And get it out in completion.
I was actually agreeing with you. Like I was trying to agree with you. So.
Okay. Well, you can do that.
No, that is a critique of the book. Is that it ends so abruptly?
Yeah.
Like this book it ends how abruptly it ends. People have a problem with that.
Okay, I have a problem with that.
Yeah.
I have a problem with it. There we go. I have a problem with that.
Yeah. No, that's fair. That's fair. You're not the only person to say that. Like,
Well,
I like it because it shows, like think of how crucial Jessica is to all of this, and then, but she's I air quotes here, just the concubine, but.
Just as Chani will be just the concubine, but she's really his wife.
Right, yeah, like
I mean,
she like
I get it.
Yeah. That's all it was.
It's still. I got to the end. I read that line, set the book down, walked in here, opened the door, and was like, "What?
Yeah.
The fuck."
I think it was
I just kind of. I didn't even say anything. I just.
No, you just looked at us.
Pointed glare, kind of thing. Like,
That's
really?
Fair. That's fair.
Really?
People do complain that it ends abruptly.
I mean, I understand. Cool. There's a billion other books in this series.
He wrote 5. He wrote 5 more.
Like, excessively large number of books in this series.
While I don't like the execution of the books, and my biggest problem with it has to do with Golas, which is something that doesn't even come up in this book.
Also clones.
It's
all that.
Golas are clones.
I know. As soon as I said that, wait, that is clones.
It's basically time travel without using time travel is my problem with it. It's actually really cool. Like, the overarching plot line here is Paul, the problem with humanity, what the Kwisatz Haderach, what the Bene Gesserit don't realize, what the Kwisatz Haderach is there to do is ensure the survival of humanity. Humanity for the past 10,000 years has stagnated, and it's basically...
It says it in there.
Paul doesn't even do it. Paul takes it easy. Paul just does the jihad. Paul allows the jihad to happen. His son Leto is what comes in and really does it. And Leto,
I thought he was dead.
He has
another son.
He has another son that also comes at Leto. That's like having a dog named Spike, and when Spike dies, you get another dog named Spike. That's fucked up.
I'm almost positive.
Leto died.
Yeah,
Leto. Their kid died.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe it's his grandson. It may be his. Yeah, I think it's his grandson because he has two other kids, I believe.
Okay.
But his grandson comes along, and his grandson, like, this is going to sound really stupid, but it makes actual sense if you read the book.
I'll hold it back.
Becomes like merges with a sandworm, like kind of over 3,500 years slowly.
So can you imagine a person and a sandworm doing like the
fusion dance?
Fusion.
But it makes perfect sense. But anyway, so he does all this to cause
all the little teeth and his little tail just
cause the scattering, kind of like basically to cause humanity to have this huge diaspora to ensure its survival, kind of deal.
So the being able to tell the future thing,
the Mentat thing.
I get that the spice, that's just a side effect of the spice. I get it. I understand how it plays a part in the plot and being able to see which way you need to go to get to your end goal. It just tastes cheap.
Okay.
And I think that
fair.
maybe that's my biggest plot complaint is that it just tastes cheap. And I understand that this was written a long time ago and that this was really groundbreaking at the time, and a lot of these things...
I think most of it comes from the world building, because I think world building...
I mean, that's definitely the highlight of this novel is
it
the
makes
world
perfect sense
building.
to me. Like, to me, it's the same thing as time travel. Like, I hate time travel because to me, time travel is cheap and it causes too many problems.
Yeah.
Time travel is not that different from being able to see the future. I'm not a big fan of being able to see the future. I just like it in this context, or like I don't have any
But
problem
now
with
I'll say that I like it in the way they did it in this, purely because he does see pathways, but it makes it way more interesting, or it should make things way more interesting when he gets to the dark spots.
Yeah, now see, that was cool, where he can see all these different paths, and he's like, all right, well, 100 of them lead to me dying, so let's go do these other things. And he's like, well, I don't know exactly where I'm at right now, so fuck it, let's just wing it. Well, that was cool, that was fine.
But my thing, I that would have had more effect if I cared at all for him as a character, which I did not.
Moving into characters.
Right. Yeah. That was the segue.
They ain't none.
I don't disagree.
You've got a boy who's a computer. Mm-hmm. You've got a
woman whose entire life is built around suppressing all emotions.
Yeah,
you've got controlling herself in every. Which again, my whole point is, I understand because the novel is built the way it is on the premise that it is, that I'm not going to get these things. So it's not for me.
So, like, y'all have had multiple conversations about, like, you have to have a good world, or a good characters, or a good plot. Otherwise, I'm not going to read any of this stuff.
You have to find something to get the
This
reader
doesn't
to latch
have
on.
characters.
It's
only the world building that got me through this, and the fact that I was going to get to argue with you about it.
Yeah.
Like,
to me, like, I enjoy the world building. I think it's exceptional world building. It feels very real, very lived in. I really enjoyed the plot. The prose wasn't a problem for me. Like, to me, the prose is a wash. Like, it didn't bother me. It didn't wow me. Like, prose is a wash. And characters is honestly the thing I tend to care the least about.
Yeah.
So, to me, that's why...
In sci-fi fantasy is the thing people generally care the least about.
I understand the criticism of the characters. Like, I get that. Like, having, leaden characters that don't feel necessarily super... The characters you can't really get behind. I get that.
Yeah.
That didn't bother me.
So, the only character that I kind of liked was the little sister.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, the little sister, because she's
weird.
She's a 4-year-old fucking weirdo, and honestly,
she was a 4-year-old fucking weirdo.
I was. And, many times I'm still a 4-year-old weirdo. So
I don't disagree.
And I didn't even care about her until she's sitting there swinging her feet in the Baron's room, just like
Emperor, like, bitch,
fuck you and your mother.
Yeah.
Like,
I'm gonna do whatever I want.
Yeah, she's like, my brother's coming.
Now, if you excuse me, I'm gonna run over and slit people's throats while they're on the ground because that's what women do.
Pap, pap. Yeah, so I mean, that was the only thing that even made me like her, because I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool for a 4-year-old. But the Fremen were cool.
Yeah.
I don't care about all of them that died. I don't care about Leto dying.
Yeah, I really liked Gurney.
Gurney is the closest to a character in the book, and I'm
saying, and it's only because of that one scene
where he tries to kill Jessica.
That is the
best scene in the book.
Only scene that is worth reading. It is a page and a half. You can wiki everything else, but read that page and a half, because that's the only part that's actively enjoyable.
You know what? Here's the thing. Part of that is genuinely just because of when it was written. That's just the way they wrote books back then.
Okay.
My point is, I had not considered it that way, but like, literally, I think I probably could have gotten the same amount of enjoyment out of this book reading an interesting wiki article about it.
Yes.
Well, see, that's
what I'm saying. Like, read the wiki, get the plot. The world building's really cool.
Well, no, but here's the thing. That's a lot coming from me.
Fair.
That's not... I know you were kind of saying it because you thought it, but also to fuck with Bob. But you're not entirely... For me,
I mean, I wasn't saying it just as a joke. But, like, legitimately, read the wiki, get the plot points, read this scene that's written
because my thing is I'm not... the book is not built for me to feel anything for anyone.
Because no one feels anything for anyone in here. There are no feelings.
So if I'm just looking for the plot,
Paul
would be very...
sheds 2 tears for the first man he's ever killed, and it's the fucking shocker, because they're like, this bitch cries. I understand we're in the desert. We got to be careful with our tears, but come the fuck on.
But
there's zero emotion this whole time.
Yeah, I think there was one other scene where a character was...
I thought Yui had a lot of emotion. Wellington Yui.
Here's the thing.
I think he had a lot of, like, wrangling with himself, but I wouldn't call that emotion.
Here's the thing.
Internal debate.
He wasn't emoting.
Well, that's not emotion.
Jessica has a lot of internal monologues, but she's not emoting.
The point is, these characters at no point demonstrate actions of characters that are being people. They will say, I am feeling this thing, and then we will move on.
As someone who is real bad with feelings, and I take a long time to actively think and process my feelings. I'll feel a thing, I'll have to think about it for a week to go, this is the thing I'm feeling.
But
this is excessive. Like,
But that's my point. Well, a lot of the characters are built to specifically do that. Like that again, which is a thing I understand, but is why I don't like the book. That I think it's a good book, but I don't. It's why I don't like it as much as everyone else.
Your two main characters are basically built to be somewhat emotionless.
Exactly.
And then it's been a while since I've read but Vladimir has he emotes.
He emotes his desire to
Careful now.
Rape little kids. I mean, he
even
emotes
that.
that.
See, even that he doesn't emote. He just thinks it. That's my point. Is like, okay, so here's.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Here's why I say this.
Yeah.
So the best, in my opinion, the best scene in the entire book is where Gurney tries to kill Jessica because he thinks that she's the reason that Leto died.
Yeah.
The best part of that entire scene is the fact that somebody is feeling an emotion and we're seeing the scene in which they're feeling the emotion.
Yeah. Like
it's not
you don't see the italics Gurney's thinking about this.
Well,
no, the scene is telling you
his
emotions.
I definitely get what you're saying.
But for example, Jessica, when she is with Leto, still doesn't show the emotion. Like, she thinks it, and she's like... Which makes sense for the characters, again. Which I make sense, but it makes it impossible for me to genuinely care about where any of this is going. So I'm just... So it's...
Yeah.
I had not thought about it, but I could have just been like... I could just read the wiki.
And
honestly, it would have been better because then I would have clicked on all the links anytime they mentioned... Like, oil lens kept messing with me.
Having just reread the wiki and reread a Spark note to it because I didn't have time for this, I'm going to disagree. I mean, you could definitely get the thrust of it. I mean, that's why I didn't watch Sons of Anarchy. Because I just wanted to know where the plot was going, kind of deal. Like, that works a lot better for someone like me.
Yeah.
It's not going to work for you, but part of it is also like, you do really miss out on a ton of the world building. Like, world building typically doesn't really make it through in wiki articles. It just doesn't. Like,
what do you sum this up as a world? Desert planet that has an oasis that they're hiding, and there's some spice that's made by worms. When the worms die? ? In the water, the water's under the sand, and there's a gas bubble, but that's where
spice bloom.
There's some water. But
it's not. Well, that's the thing. Like, they don't even fully understand the life cycle.
Cool. So
you're not meant to.
Okay, cool. Because
right.
But no, that's the thing. Like, they don't fully understand the life cycle of it.
Okay, because that was my question. Is I was actually concerned, and I didn't want to say anything because
you're not meant to fully understand it because they don't fully understand the life cycle.
Okay, cool. I assume at some point in the books they do fully understand it.
Eventually.
Okay, cool.
Maybe when that guy Super Saiyan fusions with that.
Oh, yeah.
Fucking worm.
I didn't think about
they
that.
share worm thoughts.
But that was my thing. It was like, even that was the only concern I had after I finished the book was like, I'm still not, I know that the makers...
You get kind of the broad strokes.
I know
you're not
they're
meant
in...
to understand
Okay, cool. That was the only thing that I was just like, did I miss something? And then I was like, is it because they eat a thing and they secrete the spice? Or is it because, like, I don't... Okay,
worm poop.
If I'm only supposed to... If I know they're involved in it, that's all I'm supposed to know.
Worm poop.
Yeah.
Good.
That's what it is.
Fair enough. But, again, that was... My biggest issue was purely that. There's no character for me to latch on to and be like, I'm into this character, I'm going to follow this through. The plot wasn't winding enough to keep me actively engaged the entire time. Especially because I already knew that the character had some idea of where he was going, even if he didn't know exactly where he was going. So it kind of took some of the suspense out. But then when he was
there is no suspense. Even like when there's any fighting and stuff, like, one, I don't care whether or not this character dies because he's not an actual character.
That was my thing.
So that's one. And two, he already knows the outcome, so I already know the outcome, so I don't give a fuck.
But he
didn't get the blank spots.
Again, like, his prescience doesn't really start to take off until after he does Water of Life, and that's very late in the book. Like, y'all are acting like every time he gets into a fight, well, he knows he's going to live. That's not at all the case. It's not.
My point is, like, for example...
he sees pathways. He sees, like, once he gets into the water life stuff, he sees, endless numbers of pathways, and he can kind of try and guide in directions.
Yeah.
But, and like, this isn't made like perfectly clear in this book, but it's made more clear in later books. Like, he's not prepared to make the sacrifices it's going to take to have basically better prescience. All right. So there is a lot of there's still a lot of like.
No, I'm not saying that he's not. And I'm not even agreeing necessarily.
Well, I can understand, like, yes, if he knew everything that's going to happen, yeah, that would remove, like, if he I know I'm about to have a fight and I know I'm going to live, that would remove that, but that's not what's going on here.
I know, but I think that a lot of my problem was the combination of having hints of that, because he did have hints of it before, plus the mentat, where he can just kind of calculate the likelihood of everything that's going to happen, which is kind of leading him down the same path of him being able to, like, chances are that this is what's going to happen if I do this thing. Those things combined, plus the fact that he is Bene Gesseritly removing his emotions from being a factor, it just makes a character, he's competent, but he's hyper competent.
Think of it like if he was as hyper competent as you're making it out to be, his son would never have died.
No, I know.
Like, that's the thing. Like, I mean,
but even when he died, he didn't really care. Like, it said that he was upset, like, but it said it in a word, and I didn't see him upset.
Gurney says a quote,
Look,
and then
to me, it's like everything that y'all are saying. Like, you don't like the characters. Yes. You don't feel like the characters have anything.
Yes.
That's not a character flaw. The characters are experiencing emotions. That's a prose flaw. Herbert is telling you and not showing you. Your problem is the prose. Your problem, like, and now it's kind of like, oh, I don't like these characters, but y'all keep saying, like, well, it just says how they felt. Okay, the characters are having feelings. It's not showing it. But here's the thing. That's a prose issue. And again, like, it's not a right or a wrong thing. Like, I understand like people don't like the characters. I understand that people don't like the prose. I'm not going to argue that you have to like either. Yeah. Because I don't agree that you have to. But I'm thinking, like, my take on it is, like, it's a show don't tell thing. And
here's my thing.
A fuck up on his part.
Legitimately, even when he's saying that they're feeling emotions, that's very sparse too. I'm being forgiving because I want to be the medium between the two of you.
You're not too medium.
No, because I still thought it was a good book worth reading. Like, I thought the world building in and of itself was interesting enough. The mystery of exactly how spice is made was pretty much the thing that kept me reading.
I mean, the worms were real cool.
And I thought that
they were riding worms. That's cool.
Yeah, see, and you know what?
Okay, read this book for the Fremen, and read this book just to find about Arrakis.
I'm going to be honest.
Ignore all the white people. They're all real boring.
Racist.
They're all real boring.
No, I mean, there's definitely other things to like about this, but it's just... No, there is. You're just wrong. I'm right. I'm the best. But the point is... See how Bob feels now? There are good things about the book. It's just, it is sorely lacking in the two things that I like the most. And honestly, in my opinion, not exceptional in one of the two things that it does the best. So it's like, it's good. I'm glad I read it, but I probably won't reread it. Except for the fact that you told me that it would be better if I read it again.
No, so you need to read new books. I'm putting my foot down.
No, there's other books that I reread all the time.
No,
maybe I'll come back and
you don't read fast enough to reread books.
You don't need to do that.
Read books
Life's too short to reread books.
That's my point. You don't read fast enough.
Well, it's because I read and actually get something out of it.
Oh, wow. Oof, ow, dim daggers. Ooh.
You didn't know there were two families.
I fucking can tell that there's a word that begins with an H and a word that begins with an A.
You didn't know what they were?
No,
is that
I didn't.
Food?
I didn't. And it's because, you have to own some of this. You hand me what you know is my first actual science fiction book. And you go, here, Tonya, just read this.
Yeah.
And I go, wow, all these words are real weird. Never once, Bob, do you tell me to flip to the back where there's a fucking glossary.
I actually didn't know there was a glossary until he told me the story about telling you that there was a glossary.
See, what a poor guy.
Hey.
The world had them.
What books would I know that you've read sci-fi fantasy? Lord of the Rings, right? I mean, that... Mm-hmm. What has a huge appendix and glossary at the back of it.
Does it?
Lord of the Rings.
What of the
And the
of the 24 books I've read this year, which one has had to have a glossary? Only this one. You could have been like, "Hey, Tonya,
It doesn't
I know
have
it's been
to.
Not kind of does.
It kind of does.
Okay. But
There's-
Mostly just for the technology.
That was a
would've
lot
helped
of
me out a
what
lot.
tripped me up in the beginning. Was like, what the fuck even is
did you
this?
make any effort to try and find it out though? You came
I
across
ought not have to go to the internet to tell me what these things are.
But
And now I'm not going to flip to the end of a book. That's where the ending is. You read it from the front to the back.
Look, my thing is, I've read a ton of sci-fi fantasy, so to me, it's common knowledge.
It was not.
Well, no, I understand it's not common knowledge to you. It's common knowledge to me, and it's so common that it didn't occur to me that I need to. But also, you never once expressed, "Oh, hey, like I'm right here, nonstop." Like you never once like, "Oh, I don't understand what this is. Why don't I ask Bob?" And then
I did at one point. I was like, "This is all dumb."
You made no effort to try and correct your ignorance, kind of deal. And then you're hating on the book because you don't get it.
No,
and to me that's what frustrates me.
So my initial hate was from the confusion.
Yeah.
You cleared things up. The confusion was no more.
Yeah.
This fresh hate is for the other 3/4 of the
and I
book
get that.
where I
Like
understood.
if you don't like the characters, I get that. That's fine. I don't have a problem with that. Like I understand. It doesn't bother me, but I understand that y'all don't like the characterization. I get that. I don't have a problem with that. You don't like the prose. Fine.
Yes.
Again, I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Those are legitimate complaints.
So
but
the other two
I
things,
don't understand a thing, and I make no effort to try and remedy that. That's where I have a problem.
Okay.
I'll say that you both have somewhat of a point on this, because in almost every other fantasy or sci-fi book that I've read, when they introduce a thing that I'm not going to know about, they give me more than just the word. Even when they have a glossary.
There's no descriptions of the thing. You just get the word and you have to...
Again, that's just the way things were written back then. Which, again, is a problem that I have. But legitimately, I don't read as much or as fast as you, we've joked about recently. I've only read one series that had a glossary in the back, other than this, and that was Wheel of Time.
I've read it. Malazan.
Malazan.
I'll take that back.
Malazan.
I don't care if that's the correct way to say it.
No, you've read a ton. I bet if I could go to my bookshelf right now, I bet you I could find a bunch of books that have glossaries at the back.
But see, here's the thing. Normally, I would read them, because even the Wheel of Time ones I read, and I plan to read these.
I think Goblin Emperor had one.
Those were mostly like naming conventions and stuff like that.
But it's a glossary, though. I mean, but it had more than that. There are a ton of books out there that have them.
Here's the thing: those books also explained what the things that they explained in the glossary were in the book, and they didn't in this.
What is something that didn't explain in the book?
Any of the technology that they
name something.
Oil lenses.
Is that just not like binoculars?
No.
Is that...
I actually don't remember oil.
Okay, because in my head they've just been binoculars.
Well, I mean, it's a magnifying thing, but
Yeah.
they're not binoculars.
So it's a telescope?
Kind of.
Okay, well,
but
that's
it's like
kinda what I
lenses
figured.
with specific oil in it that when
I
you
just
twist
ignored
it.
that.
Well, see, that's my point. And that was the one that I kept going.
Can you name
What
another?
is
Like
that?
I flat out don't remember that. Can you name another technology or anything in there that you just flat out you just have no idea what it is?
Now that I have finished the book and am aware that there's a glossary, no, I cannot. Because after someone else told me that there was a glossary, I started flipping to the back. So I can't tell you now what I didn't know then.
Yeah.
You are super defensive for someone who keeps saying, I don't care that you don't like this book, but...
Well, because you have to not like it
book.
for the right reason.
Yeah, well, no, that's my thing. Like, here's the thing. If you just said, like, if your tone on this was Derek's tone, but I don't like it, I would have zero problem with it. But you were shitting on this book really fucking hard.
I hate this book.
Really fucking hard, and I don't think it's justified. Like, not liking the book is fine, but your utter hatred of this book, I don't think you ever gave it a fair shake, and that's what bothers me.
No, I probably didn't.
And so it's like it'd be like if you started dating someone and you just 3 weeks in just like, well, fuck this person, I hate them, and made no effort to understand them. Like, wouldn't that be bullshit? You know, it's like you never made any effort to give the book a fair shake, and you hate on it. And like, this is legitimately one of my top 10 favorite books. I'm going to be defensive over it if someone is hating on the book undeservedly. Like, if your critique is, I didn't like the prose, I didn't like the characters, I understand. You can back up your arguments. Cool, fine. Legitimate arguments. Me and Derek have talked about this. Like, fine, I get it. But like, just the utter hate, and like, you never gave it a fair shot. Like, you hated it out the gate, basically, and you never gave it a fair shot.
I'm not going to go so far as to say that.
That's why I get defensive. It's
I'm not going to go so far as to say that.
You never cared enough to give it a fair shot,
because
and are trashing one of my favorite things.
Fair.
I'm not going to even go that far, because
that's why I get defensive.
I think she probably did want to like it because you like it a lot, so she probably at least went in with it being like,
everything else that you specifically have recommended that I read over this year has been really good. So I'm like, fuck yeah, this is gonna be great. And it didn't hit with me. I got lost right out the gate and spent too much time floundering, which yes has left a poor taste in my mouth. But I don't know. It's not for me. The four big things: character, plot, world building, and what the fuck else? Prose. Only one of those things was adequate for me.
And that's
well. See, I think that
but can I not synthesize all of my opinions on all four pillars to just be like, it's just
no.
It's not about what you said. It's about how you said it.
My problem is not that you. I don't care that you like. I don't care that Derek doesn't really like the book. I don't care that you don't like the book. To me, it's just you're not being fair to the book. Like, my problem is not a dislike thing. It's a fairness issue. Like, you're shitting on a book that you never gave a fair chance.
Okay.
And that's
no. I can concede that point.
That's what bothers me. Okay. Like, if your argument is like, I don't like 3 of the 4 pillars, fine, that's cool. Like, I have no problem with that. If you back up your arguments, cool. Saying, I don't like this book, I have zero problem with that. Saying, I hate this piece of shit, trash book.
It's the way you say it, not what you say.
And, like, the thing, like, granted, like, it doesn't matter, like, really and truly who fundamentally who's listening to this, right? But, like, we are a voice that is putting our opinion out there. People are listening to this. Yeah. And you are shitting on a book that you never gave a fair chance, and people are going to listen to it, you know, and like that
is going to affect how other people.
That's going to that it has an effect. Like, if you don't like it, that's fine, but shitting on it just to shit on it, I don't like.
It's actually the point of why we came up with this new critique system. Which, if you haven't heard, we're going to start critiquing books.
Yeah, I've already done one.
Yeah,
we're going to do an in-depth where we talk about this.
But basically, the 4 pillars that we discussed earlier, we're going to give was it 5? 5 stars?
1 to 5, yeah.
1 to 5?
And you can do like quarter points, half points, stuff like that.
Yeah, but we're basically, because, for example, I care more about how characterization is very, very important to me. Yeah. But it's less important to Bob.
Me doing a blog post where I say, I liked this book, fundamentally doesn't mean fucking anything to you because you don't know where I'm coming from on when I say I like it. So we're doing these 4 pillars, and we're going to do a bonus podcast where we take like 10 books that we both read and rate them. So you can kind of see.
Oh, that sounds fun.
So, this is not the worst book I've read this year. Does that make you feel better?
What was the worst book you read this year?
That Inkwitch one, wasn't it? Oh, no, the one you read before that.
No, I honestly can't remember. I DNF'd it. But I actually finished this instead of stopping.
But would you have finished it if we weren't going to do a podcast?
Yeah, I would have.
Okay.
Yeah, I would have. Would I have read the last 60 pages? No.
I actually liked the last third of it a lot. Just because everything... Part of my problem...
It snowballs.
Yeah. Okay, see, that was... Pacing. Rather. Like, the first third was like a slog. Because I understand you're setting up the world, you're learning all the people, I get why it's so slow in the first third.
I also think, though, part of that problem is because he very clearly wrote this book. The reason it ends so abruptly, the plan was to go straight into the second book.
Yeah,
it was supposed to be a longer book.
He's setting the stage not for a book. he's setting the stage for a series.
Yeah.
And that's
Maybe-
why that's why I think it
Yeah.
snowballs like that. He spends a lot
yeah.
more time setting the scene because so
I
he
think
can spend
all of
less
that
time on
was
later books.
legitimate if this had been like a 600 or 700 word or a page thing, because I think that it really hit its stride once you met the Fremen and got involved with them. But then they just kind of skimped over all the really cool, important shit that happened.
It's
with
like
them.
they were in the Fremen thing for like 3 or 4 years, and it was not that long in the page
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
And
wait,
that would have been
wait.
the most interesting
Apparent-
part.
It was like,
Apparently,
wait, what? Paul, he was 13, now he's 18?
Apparently,
They've been
Herbert,
in the Fremen for a
his
long
son,
time.
is writing stuff that fills in the gaps.
But that was-
apparently Herbert left like tons of notes
Okay.
about like stuff like
Yeah.
that.
But
Okay. Well, I am sorry that I did not.
I will never
Start
I will
this
never.
book.
I will never forgive you.
I wanted to like it. I started wanting to like it, but it lost me too early, and there was not enough going on for it to redeem itself for me. I am sorry that I have
you
said
expressed yourself in such an unfair
I'm
and
sorry that I
abrasive
put
way.
Energizer Bunny in the sand gifs on Facebook to,
Which was
to
what
symbolize
started-
me getting
is-
out
Which
of
is what made me take a screenshot and send it to my friends.
yeah. So I'm sorry that I shit on one of your favorite books, but it's just not
Now
funny.
we need to...
You're dead to me. It's
You,
too late.
you missed
You're dead
where
to me.
I had the conversation with Bob where I was like, now we need to pick one of her favorite books so that we can read it and shit all over
It's
it.
Charlotte's Web.
I'm not shitting on Charlotte's Web. What the fuck's wrong with you?
well,
Anyways, we've got to go.
Yeah, we got a
party
party
to
to
go.
go
Let's
to.
go get drunk.
All right. Bye.
Bye.